Stay calm, miss.
Please, just cooperate.
When two rookie cops wrongfully arrest a black woman for shoplifting, their arrogance shatters when they discover she is their own police captain, Maya Johnson. What begins as humiliation on a boutique floor spirals into a storm of systemic racism, betrayal, and public outrage as Maya fights not just for herself but for every unseen victim of bias, from the shocking arrest to the silence of bystanders, the unraveling of excuses inside the precinct, the eruption of citywide protests, the tense hearings, and the brutal downfall of the guilty. This cinematic story unfolds like a documentary of injustice. Dialogue-driven confrontations reveal the raw fear, anger, and hypocrisy of those who hide behind badges, while Maya's unflinching resolve exposes their corruption. In the end, poetic justice strikes. The guilty are stripped of power, reputations collapse. Rain tapped faintly against the glass panes of Linden & Co. Boutique inside. Warm light glowed over polished displays. Captain Maya Johnson off duty, plain jeans, a navy jacket, moved quietly through the aisles. She wasn't captain here, just Maya, a daughter searching for a birthday gift for her mother. The clerk's eyes followed, her sharp, calculating, as if Maya's skin was already a question mark. Maya picked up a silk scarf, smiled softly. This one. The clerk's lips tightened. Are you sure you can afford that? Maya froze. Her voice was calm. Ring it up. The clerk didn't move. Instead, he slipped behind the counterphone. His whisper wasn't as quiet as he thought. Yes, security, possible shoplifter, hurry. Minutes stretched. Two uniformed officers entered. Rookies, young, eager, with false swagger. Officer Carter scanned the room, his gaze fixed instantly on Maya. Ma'am, can we see inside your bag? Maya set the scarf on the counter. Her tone stayed level. I haven't left the store. I haven't purchased yet. The second cop, Torres, smirked. Exactly. Looks like intent to conceal. Maya breathed deep. No concealment. No crime. The clerk interjected. She's been pacing, watching me. People do that when they're nervous. Carter nodded, already convinced. Step aside, ma'am. Maya met his eyes. On what grounds? Torres stepped closer, lowering his voice with mock authority. Don't get difficult. We can do this easy or hard. Shoppers lingered at the edges. Murmurs grew. Someone raised a phone. Maya's heartbeat drummed steady in her chest. Every instinct screamed to pull rank, to cut them down with 3 words. I'm your captain. But she stayed silent. Carter pointed at her purse. Open it. She unzipped slowly. Wallet, keys, nothing more. The officers glanced, unimpressed. Check the jacket, Torres said. Hands rougher now. Carter patted down the sleeves, the pockets empty still. Suspicion clung to their faces like armor. Maya whispered, Is this what guilt looks like to you? Skin, not evidence. The clerk sneered. We all know the type. The words sliced. Maya's jaw tightened. She placed the scarf neatly back on the counter, each fold exact. Her dignity remained her last shield. But their eyes had already written the story. Thief. The narration cut cold. Documentary-like. Injustice rarely waits for proof. It only waits for permission. Ma'am, you're not free to leave, Carter announced, hand on cuffs. Phones recorded. Gasps filled the boutique. The fluorescent lights above hummed a flat, endless note. The concrete bench beneath Maya leached warmth from her bones. Her wrists ached from metal that should have never touched her skin. Down the corridor, voices carried muffled, laughing, careless. Torres' voice first. Man, did you see her face when we cuffed her? Priceless. Carter replied between bursts of laughter. Yeah, she thought she was smarter than us. Bet she thought we'd just let her walk out. Their laughter echoed, hollow, against tiled walls. Maya closed her eyes, listening. Each word was evidence, each sneer a record. Narration cut through, sharp as glass. Racism thrives, not in shadows but in plain daylight. Passed off as routine, disguised as duty. Footsteps approached. The cell door clanged open. On your feet, Torres barked. Maya rose. Slow, unhurried. Carter grinned. Time for fingerprints. Princess. They led her down the hall, past other cells, eyes peering out, some sympathetic, some detached. At the booking station, the sergeant barely looked up, sliding forms across the desk. Printer, Mughurst, standard procedure. Torres pressed Maya's fingers onto ink pads, rolling each across paper. He smirked, as if the ink itself proved guilt. Smile, Carter said, raising the camera. Maya stood, chin high, eyes cold. The shutter clicked. Torres chuckled. That one's going on my wall. She didn't answer. Silence became her defiance. Back in the holding cell, she sat again, cuffs now removed but wrists raw, the concrete wall pressed against her shoulders. A young officer passed, glanced in, then stopped. What did she do? He asked Torres casually. Shoplifted, Torres said. Tried to play clever. You know the type. The young officer frowned, but said nothing. Maya's voice carried, low, precise. The type you mean is black. The hall froze. Carter shot her a glare. Watch it. Maya leaned forward, elbows on her knees. Your words expose you more than your cuffs. Torres barked a laugh, trying to shake off the weight of her stare. She's got an attitude problem. Narration cut cold. When truth unsettles the liar, it is labeled attitude. The sergeant passed by, paperwork in hand. He didn't look at Maya, didn't ask a question, just moved on. Procedures swallowed humanity whole. Hours bled. The cell door remained closed. The laughter of the rookies ebbed and flowed like waves, each joke peeling another layer of dignity from the air. Maya remained silent. She counted the cracks in the ceiling, the stains on the floor. Every detail became armor, a way to stay anchored. A memory surfaced her first day wearing the badge, standing tall in front of the same emblem that now loomed above her cell, swearing to protect and serve, believing the oath mattered. Now that oath mocked her, painted on walls like graffiti with no meaning. Footsteps again, a different tone this time, sharper, older, authoritative. The rookies hushed. Who's in 3? A new voice demanded. Shoplifter. Carter answered quickly. The man's footsteps approached. Maya lifted her head, eyes locking on the shadow forming outside her cell door. The senior officer peered in, his eyes widened. Maya, her silence was answer enough. Shock rippled down the hall. The rookies stiffened, their laughter dead in their throats. The senior officer's voice dropped. That's Captain Johnson. The name fell like a hammer. Torres stammered. Cap. Carter swallowed hard, color draining from his face. But she, Maya stood, slow, deliberate. Her voice was a blade. You just put your captain in a holding cell. Silence crashed over the precinct. The rookies' arrogance crumbled, their sneers replaced with terror. Narration cut one final time. Power built on prejudice collapses under truth, and truth had just spoken. The chapter closed with Maya standing tall behind the bars, her eyes sharper than steel, watching the officers realize the ground had vanished beneath them. The hallway stank of bleach and fear. Carter and Torres stood frozen, pale under the flickering fluorescent light. The senior officer, Lieutenant Harris, kept his gaze locked on Maya, his voice strained. Open this door, now. The sergeant at the desk hesitated. But she's now, Harris snapped. The keys rattled, the lock turned, and the bars slid open with a metallic groan. Maya stepped out, unhurried, her back straight, every inch of her authority intact despite the hours in chains. Torres stumbled over words. Captain, we didn't know. Maya cut him off with a single look, cold, surgical. Her voice was low, deliberate. You had my name, you had my ID, you had no excuse. Carter's lips trembled. We thought you assumed. Maya's tone sliced through him. An assumption is the coward's badge. The corridor had filled, officers drawn by the commotion. Their faces shifted between disbelief and shame. Whispers carried. Captain Johnson. Arrested. Maya turned to. Narration cut through. Institutions do not fall apart from lies. They fall apart from truth spoken too loudly to ignore. Maya turned to the crowd. You sat in this room, some of you for years, wearing the same uniform I wear. How many times have you looked the other way? How many times have you laughed at stories like this, told in the locker room? How many times have you stamped papers you didn't read because you trusted the word of men like these? Eyes dropped, boots shifted on the floor. Lieutenant Harris cleared his throat softly. Captain, perhaps this would be better handled privately. No, Maya cut him off. It happened in public. It will be addressed in public. Where they shamed me, I will expose them. Her gaze locked on the rookies again. You were arrogant enough to parade me through the city. Now you will face the truth in front of your brothers and sisters in uniform. Carter's jaw clenched, his voice trembling. We didn't know who you were. Maya stepped closer, voice like thunder controlled. And that is the point. You didn't need to know who I was to treat me with dignity. You didn't need to know I was Captain Johnson to follow the law. But you didn't, because to you, I was already guilty. The words shattered the last defense in their eyes. Narration entered. Stark, racism is not an accident. It is a choice, dressed in excuses. And excuses always collapse under truth. Maya's voice softened, heavy with precision. If this can happen to me, What happens to those with no title, no badge, no one to walk into this room and demand answers? How many have sat in those cells, voiceless, while you laughed? The silence was suffocating. Officers shifted uncomfortably, some staring at the floor, others unable to look away. Maya dropped the paperwork on the desk with a sharp slap. This is not an isolated incident. This is a mirror, and you will look into it, every single one of you. Her eyes swept the room. Tonight, the question is not whether Carter and Torres are guilty. That answer is obvious. The question is, will this department finally admit its rot, or will you bury it again until the next body, the next mugshot, the next humiliation? A heavy silence fell, broken only by the hum of the lights. Carter's lips parted, but no words came. Torres sat rigid, face pale. The rest of the room shifted in uneasy shame. Maya's voice closed like a verdict. You didn't just handcuff me. You handcuffed the trust of this community. And trust, once broken, doesn't return with apologies. It returns only with accountability. The chapter ended with the rookies staring down at their boots, the entire department caught in a silence so deep it felt like judgment itself. The morning after the confrontation, the city burned with whispers. Clips from the boutique had spread across the internet. Grainy phone footage of two cops cuffing a black woman who protested calmly, quietly, with dignity. The caption read, "Innocent or guilty," but the video spoke for itself by noon. Headlines screamed, "Captain arrested by own officers without cause." Inside the precinct, tensions snapped like wires pulled too tight. Reporters crowded the steps outside. Phones rang without pause. In the captain's office, Maya sat behind her desk, unflinching. The same wrists, once cuffed, now rested freely on polished wood. Across from her, the rookies fidgeted, pale and sweating. Carter tried first. "Captain, it was all a misunderstanding. We didn't mean," Maya cut him off. "Intent does not erase impact. You humiliated me. You humiliated this department. And you humiliated yourselves." Torres leaned forward desperately. "We were following protocol. Protocol is not prejudice in uniform," Maya snapped. Narration sliced in, cool and precise. "Excuses are the final refuge of the guilty, spoken not to convince the victim, but to convince themselves." The door opened. Deputy Chief Reynolds entered, his face tight with political strain. "Captain Johnson," he began carefully, "this situation is delicate. The press is circling. The mayor's office is breathing down my neck. We need to contain this." Maya's gaze hardened. "Contain, or cover up?" Reynolds hesitated. "We can't afford to make the department look weak." Maya's voice dropped, sharp as a blade. "The department already looks weak. The world saw what happened. You can't bury video." The rookies exchanged terrified glances. Reynolds tried again, lower, almost pleading. "If you push too hard, the backlash could cripple morale. The union will fight. The public will demand resignations. You'll turn allies into enemies." Maya leaned forward. "If accountability makes them enemies, they were never allies." The room went still. Narration entered. Clinical. Corruption fears exposure not because of shame, but because exposure robs it of safety. Later that afternoon, the precinct hallways echoed with whispers. Some officers muttered that Maya was overreacting. Others admitted, in hushed tones, that the video looked bad, worse than bad. But no one spoke openly. Silence, once again, served as shield. Torres whispered to Carter in the locker room, "She's going to ruin us. She end our careers." Carter hissed back, "Ours. She ruined the whole department. Maybe if we stopped glancing around. Maybe if we say she was intimidating, that she resisted, that she," a third officer, silent until then, cut in sharply. Reynolds barked, "You'll destroy us." She leaned in, her words low but lethal. "No, you destroy yourselves by protecting rot." The hearing reached its conclusion. The panel reviewed footage, testimony, the viral video. Silence stretched before the verdict. Officers Carter and Torres. The chairwoman finally declared, "You are hereby terminated, effective immediately. This department cannot and will not protect actions rooted in prejudice." The rookies' faces collapsed. Fury, despair. Carter opened his mouth, but no words came. Torres buried her face in trembling hands. The room was heavy with consequence. Narration entered. Poetic justice is not revenge. It is balance restored. A mirror held up until the guilty can no longer look away. Maya stood at a podium, cameras flashing, reporters shouting. She did not smile. She did not posture. She spoke. "What happened to me was not unique. It was recorded. That is the difference. I was mistaken for a thief because of my skin. I was cuffed because fear disguised itself as procedure. And I was freed only when my rank outweighed their prejudice. This is not a personal tragedy, it is a systemic one. The crowd fell silent, hanging on every word. This city deserves a department that serves without bias. That day has not yet come, but it will. Her words landed like hammer strikes. That night, the precinct stood quiet. Reynolds resigned under pressure. The rookies disappeared from the force, their names already etched into infamy. The union fumed but fractured. Maya sat in her office, lights dimmed. On her desk lay the handcuffs once snapped on her wrists. She stared at them not with pain, not with rage, but with resolve. Narration. Final and unflinching. Power abused destroys itself. Justice delayed demands louder voices. And truth, once exposed, is irreversible. Outside, the chants still echoed faintly, carried by wind. Justice for all. Maya closed her eyes. She did not smile. But she knew the reckoning had begun. The city settled into uneasy quiet. The protests slowed, though their echoes still lived in every corner store, every bus stop, every whispered conversation. The boutique on 7th reopened, its glass door no longer shattered but carrying an invisible scar. Narration flowed, calm, detached. History does not end with verdicts. It lingers. It stains. It waits to see if silence will return, or if voices will remain awake. Maya walked through the streets without uniform. No rank, no title, just herself. Heads turned. Some offered nods. Some whispered her name. Others looked away, ashamed of what they'd seen played on screens. A child tugged her mother's hand, pointing. That's her. The mother knelt, whispering, remember her face. That's what strength looks like. Maya kept walking, her pace steady. Torres packed boxes in silence. Her badge surrendered, her locker emptied. Carter stared at his reflection in the rearview mirror. Uniform crumpled on the seat beside him. The system that once shielded them had spit them out, not for conscience, but for survival. Narration cut in, cool as winter. The system devours its own when survival demands sacrifice, but it never forgets the hunger that created them. Deputy Chief Reynolds sat alone in his office, resignation letters signed but unsent. His phone buzzed with calls from the mayor, the union, reporters. He ignored them all, staring at the framed flag on the wall. For the first time in years, he felt powerless. He realized the truth Maya had hurled at him. To protect rot is to rot with it. At home, Maya placed the handcuffs on a shelf, not as a trophy, not as a wound, but as a reminder. They gleamed in the low light, both weapon and warning. She whispered to herself, not for comfort, but as promise, never again. Narration carried the final weight. Poetic justice does not erase pain. It exposes it, so it cannot be hidden. And from that exposure comes resolve, the kind that bends history, inch by inch, toward truth. The city skyline glowed under nightfall. From a distance, the precinct lights flickered, small against the vastness. Maya stood on her balcony, arms folded, watching, not triumphant, not broken, simply unyielding. Ashes fell where arrogance burned. Iron remained where dignity endured. The story closed not with applause, not with closure, but with certainty. The reckoning had not ended, it had only begun.